this video, I will be analyzing the Nike Dream Further commercial for a Level 4 opportunity, and the standards I wish to be assessed on are standards 4 and 9. Firstly, I'll begin with a bit of context. The Dream Further campaign, produced by the advertising agency Wieden+Kennedy, took place during the 2019 Women's World Cup, with one of its main intentions being the empowerment of female soccer players, those of which are terribly overlooked in such a male-dominated sport. Now, looking historically, several advertisements throughout time have female figures being represented as objects of male desire and rewards for their achievement, and this can even be seen in several of Nike's own ads. The role of women in sports would often be completely disregarded or dismissed. It's that stereotypical idea of male athletes and female cheerleaders, women always being there to support and to please, but never to play themselves. It's important to remember that this advertisement is specifically made for the context of the 2019 Women's World Cup when looking at its overall purpose, and that one of its main intentions is to celebrate and support female soccer players, especially due to the inequality and discrimination that women in this sport suffer. Women are incredibly underrepresented in the sport of soccer, and viewership statistics show exactly this. For instance, the 2018 Men's World Cup gathered 3.5 billion viewers, while the 2019's Women's was at around 20 million. One of the main purposes of this advertisement was to encourage the viewership of the Women's World Cup, along with selling Nike products in the process. Therefore, in this video, I will be analyzing the visual, verbal, and audible features of the Dream Further commercial advertisement, taking into consideration how these achieve the overarching purpose of the campaign, their effects on the audience, and the adherence/deviation that this specific advertisement has from typical commercial norms. I'll begin my analysis by looking at the visual elements, and the first aspect of those that I'll be looking at are the camera angles in the advertisement. Specifically when the object of the scene is the main figure of the commercial, which is the young girl. Most of the time, the camera is positioned at a low angle, looking up at the girl, and if not, it is then at an eye level. What we can see from these several low angles is that the camera never looks down at the girl. Instead, it looks up as though she were a figure of power and strength. It shows as a sign of respect and admiration to a female soccer player, a young one at that, showing that power that these athletes have. This helps achieve one of the main goals of the advertisement, portraying female soccer athletes as strong, powerful, and talented, when they are typically seen in this patriarchal society as weak simply because they are women. As to the effect on the audience, using somebody so young and looking up at them as the camera does can be seen as motivational, affecting the tone of the piece, because it is meant to inspire young women to dream further, as the title already suggests, and to pursue their dreams no matter what other people may say about them. The next visual element I'll be looking at are the close-ups in the commercial. Firstly, through these close-ups, the audience can perceive the mannerisms of the main figure while also being communicated to about who the focus of the advertisement is. Additionally, close-ups of hand-holding are also relevant to look at because they evoke this sense of collaboration. Beyond this, we also see close-ups of the Nike logo on athletes' uniforms, which has its own effect that I'll soon elaborate on. The first close-ups that I mentioned, being of the young girl, showcase her mannerisms at the beginning of the commercial. Her body language and fidgeting showcase this nervousness she is feeling, and in a way, a lack of confidence that we're being told to focus on, because her self-assurance develops throughout the ad. Additionally, with the close-ups of hand-holding, we see this sense of community and collaboration, creating this idea about this joint effort, but especially the support network that a young athlete can find from others in her position, which can often not be communicated properly, and this fear of not having a support network leads to women straying away from the sport. The ad shows that they will be supported and do not have to be afraid to pursue their dream. Finally, with close-ups of the Nike logo, we get this idea that Nike supports women in soccer. Furthermore, it can be understood that the athletes only have their uniforms because of Nike's generosity, and that they wouldn't be in the position they are in without the company. This is a more subliminal message, however, it is still there. And the next visual element that I'll be looking at is camera motion as a feature of cinematography, being another pertinent feature to be analyzed in this commercial. The camera is always focused on the main figure of the ad, the young girl, and it moves according to her. We see shots showing her point of view, handheld cameras that follow her body movement when she falls, 360s around her, and the camera following her eyes and her own movement. The camera follows the girl and thus empowers her. This goes beyond simple angles as it makes her the focal point of the advertisement. With this POV shot, we as an audience are put into her position, and with these several shots that move adjacently to the girl, it creates a proximity between the audience and the character. The final visual element that I will be looking at in this advertisement are the quick shots and transitions, which help create a motivational tone and also support the female athletes in several ways, as we will see soon. Each of these shots compiled together have their main ideas, and connecting these main ideas with the speed and shortness of the clips is also pretty relevant to look at. And the first main idea that has these quick shots as one of its elements is the change in uniform colors, because we see several uniform colors throughout the advertisement, and the shots from athletes go from one to the other relatively fast. With this choice, the company is capable of highlighting several of the soccer players participating in the game and show their support to these women much more profoundly. The transitions usually rely on the girl being taken by women from different teams, having this outstanding experience while surrounded with some of the world's greatest female soccer players. The next main idea that involves these quick shots and transitions are shots of the audience. We can see these shots appearing at multiple moments throughout the commercial. However, the one that I wish to highlight is the shot of Neymar. He is one of the most famous male soccer players in the world, is incredibly influential in Brazil, but also especially internationally. Women's soccer often becomes overlooked because people will say that it is not as good as men's soccer, and having this enormous figure, influential one at that, show support toward the women's team, even though it is in a pretty short shot, can be used to influence more people to watch the Women's World Cup, thus achieving one of Nike's main purposes within the advertisement. And the final main idea that has these quick shots are the shots of photographers who are almost frantically photographing the games, especially during tense moments. We can see multiple cameras facing toward the girl, and in a way, multiple eyes are on her. It gives importance to the sport, especially when it involves women. Women's soccer is not nearly as accessible to watch as men's is. Finally, having this media-centered focus begs for this change in progress and representation that up to this point hasn't really been there. Now, moving on, I'll start looking at textual and verbal features of the advertisement. And firstly, I'll be looking at dialogue and how it develops throughout the commercial. The element of dialogue is one of the most important when looking at the verbal language in this advertisement, and one suitable example of this is the dialogue that occurs in the very beginning of the advertisement and the one at the end. They include the same athletes in the same exact context saying the same phrase. However, in the first clip, it is the older athlete who asks the younger one, "Are you ready?" while the younger one is clearly nervous, as was mentioned when we looked at mannerisms. However, after the journey shown throughout the entirety of the advertisement, the girl, in turn, asks the older athlete if she's the one who's ready. The advertisement is thus able to convey that idea that is suggested by the title, to dream further. In the beginning, the girl was clearly afraid, but by the end, she goes head-on straight into the same challenge that scared her previously. The next notable feature is the use of different languages, used to emphasize the international community aspect of the Women's World Cup.
You ready?
And the advertisement showcases fans and members speaking in several different languages. This verbal choice helps to emphasize and give perspective as to how large this community of female soccer players truly is, and it puts the sport on a global scale/level. It makes the audience understand that the sport is beyond their own possible realities, and that women all over the world who wish to dream to be soccer players must dream further, because it can be achieved, no matter where you're from. And the final important verbal feature that I'll be analyzing is the presence of the tagline, slogan, and logo at the very end of the advertisement. At this point, the tagline states, "Don't change your dream, change the world." Looking at this piece of text reveals much about the purpose of this advertisement and the message that Nike is attempting to send. By using words in the imperative such as don't and change, the company is speaking directly to the viewer and encouraging them to dream further. If we look at the entirety of the advertisement and then this piece of text, we can make certain connections that show how this final phrase was the main message they wished to convey. We know that in the beginning the girl was afraid of stepping out and trying to pursue her dream, but Nike is telling the audience not to be afraid, not to back away, not to change your dream, and instead pursue it and change the world while you do. Finally, stating that the audience can change the world, the message becomes more empowering. Women in a patriarchal society are constantly told that they will never be capable of making a difference, that that is a man's job. But the advertising tells this majoritarily female audience that they are capable if they choose to make the effort. And finally, having the slogan and the logo allows the audience to know that the message is coming from Nike and that the company is the one who wishes to inspire them. It creates a more positive idea of Nike after the audience has become motivated by their advertisement. Now, the last element of the advertisement I'll be looking at is audio. And firstly, I'll be looking at the empowering music that is present throughout almost the entirety of the ad. The music used throughout is a song very commonly used in feminist contexts and media in the modern day. The main words of the song state, "I don't give a damn about my reputation, you're living in the past while it's a new generation." The message of this song emphasizes this idea of the incorporation of women in male-dominated sports, this transition that must be had as a society perspective-wise. It also tells women not to care about the reputation they may gain from attempting to pursue a career in the field of soccer, regardless of the backlash they may get from doing so. Furthermore, the tune is quite upbeat, with an emphasis on drums and guitar. This creates a brighter, more inspired mood. In simplest terms, it makes the audience feel happy.
To PK, goal! The league's first female coach makes history!
Next, another point in which sound prevails as a feature of the text is during a period of chanting within a locker room, transitioning to a crowd of fans doing the same. This affects the mood of the advertisement because not only does it show, again, a sense of support within the athletes and from their fans, but it is so loud that it seems like this happy feeling is almost inescapable. Take a listen for yourself. It shines the sport in a positive light that makes it seem less scary to people contemplating joining it. Once again, showcasing that exact same purpose of supporting the female athletes in women's soccer, but also encouraging the entrance of others, younger ones at that, into the sport of soccer. Finally, in order to conclude this video, I will be taking a look at how the advertisement may adhere or deviate from typical commercial norms. One way in which it adheres is by using large figures wearing Nike. By using these figures such as Marta, Neymar, etc., all wearing Nike, the advertisement follows this norm of utilizing large influential figures in order to create a bit of a bandwagon and sell their products accordingly. This is done in nearly every large advertising campaign in existence, and Nike definitely adheres to this convention. Then another method of adherence is through the positive motivational tone. Most commercials are attempting to sell a product which will make the audience feel good about themselves. As was stated at multiple points during my analysis, various features of the commercial contribute to the creation of a motivational mood, and when the audience feels this happiness by watching your advertisement, they will be more inclined to buy your product. This is something that Nike definitely knows, and is why they changed this tone into making it something more motivational and more positive. However, one way in which Nike deviates from the historically common norms is by their portrayal of women that is not in a sexualized, objectified fashion. At no point of the advertisement are the women seen as rewards. At no point are they seen as accessories to men. They are portrayed as their own people with their own abilities and own strengths. When we look at older advertisements from Nike, women weren't often seen in this manner. and this deviation is definitely progressive for the company and will hopefully become more and more common. That concludes this analysis. Thank you very much.